Still loading. Good evening. Welcome to episode 1 of the Love Boat Project. My guest this episode is Mike Robertson, and we are here to discuss season 1, episode 1, Captain and Lady, Centerfold, If One If by Land. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this maiden voyage. I have like 4 boat terms, so I'm going to use them a lot.
Please. I kind of try to acquaint myself with some boat terminology. I've got stern, port. That's about it.
The one thing I did learn after watching this episode was there's just a lot of things about boats and cruises and the late 70s that I just did not know and still don't know. So
it really was. It was it's interesting when you watch a show from 1977 and the state of the world is obviously a much different place than where we live now, and that to me is the thing that really kind of jumped out. All right, so we're gonna jump right into this. Original air date of this episode was September 24th, 1977, and I'm going to give you the brief synopsis of the Love Boat episode. The captain's ex-wife, it's Bonnie Franklin, who is now married. Let me just say this, okay? I would think if you were, I'm sorry, Bonnie Franklin, but I would think if you were casting somebody as the ex-wife of a ship's captain, like, was Bonnie Franklin a looker in the 70s? Was that a look?
Well, here. Okay, so we're going to jump right into Bonnie Franklin because Bonnie Franklin, obviously One Day at a Time.
Yeah.
I know her as the mother, and that's all I know her from. So, and I assume One Day at a Time was on by now, which is why she's the big
yes.
cat. Okay. So she comes in so hot
with
that accent. It is like, hello, darling. Like, it is just like out of nowhere. Her whole affect and character was amazing. But it's not like Steubing is some, eye candy either. Let's be honest here. So
I'll tell you what, you get a very different looking captain with hat on versus hat off. You get 2 completely different vibes. Hat on captain, he could definitely get Bonnie Franklin. Hat off captain, but the interesting thing was I didn't catch it the first time I watched what apparently Bonnie Franklin's husband, and it's in the synopsis, was a cruise line executive.
Yes.
I don't know how I missed that.
So that was their entry into why she was able to be so demanding of the crew.
Yeah, because she wanted Gopher to be in her room in an hour, and he drop the whole Shirley Temple?
Right. But that doesn't make any sense because, like, my wife's job, I can't just show up and, like, demand people do things based on her employment. So that was a real weird entry point. But yeah, they did explain it right away and then never went back because that guy didn't do anything. Aubrey.
He spoke 4 or 5 words the entire episode.
Yeah, but they were strong.
Creepy.
They were strong words.
Oh, they were strong words. Yeah, they were. All right, so that Bonnie Franklin, who is now married to one of the cruise line's executives, comes on board, is walking all over him, and he's letting her. A woman, Meredith Baxter. Let me just say, the Meredith Baxter storyline was my least favorite.
They didn't seem to have much there because they wrapped it up really early.
Well, when I was doing research, I noticed, so they have 3 different storylines for this episode, and they had 3 different directors.
I saw that.
And I'm like, how does that?
Why? It's not like they were like exotic locales that they were shooting on.
Well, and it's in the context of one show. You know what I mean? It's one, or should be one.
I was really... There were 2 things. Well, I'll let you go because I don't want to run into. We haven't even gotten to the credits yet, but I was surprised by that. And another thing in the credits that I was very surprised by.
Interesting. All right. Who's engaged to a congressman? Shelley Novak. I have a. Do you know who Shelley Novak is?
Nope. No idea.
When I saw this, so the first time I saw this, I don't know, just something about him screamed like he's in one of those, he works for like the government, like it's a bad guy. Like I can see that 70s sort of.
Sure, like one of those, like if he was in the like one of the Nixon guys in President's Men or something. Yeah.
So I looked at him like, what is with this guy? Interesting. So he was drafted by the Chargers, 1965, in the AFL. Yeah. Never played a regular season game.
So did Al Davis draft him? Because he was with the Chargers before he was with the
Yeah.
Raiders. Oh,
Oh, that's
intrigue.
interesting. So after 2 seasons, it says here Novak met Universal Studios acting coach Vincent Chase. And then I thought, isn't that the name of that guy
Guy
in the
from
show?
Entourage. Yeah.
Weird. While playing in a touch football league during the offseason, which what NFL guys play? Can you imagine if modern day NFL players were playing in rec league touch football?
And there were already two.
God.
There were already two at pro leagues. Like,
Yeah,
how
what
much
else?
more do you need?
He must have been bad. Wide receiver, by the way, if I didn't mention it. So he got a little into acting. He was in a few episodes of Quincy, which I'm a huge fan.
Yep.
But here's the odd part. Novak died of a heart attack at the age of 34.
So that must have been like right after this.
1978, the next year.
Oh my
He was
God.
dead. Yeah. Dead of a heart attack. Isn't that crazy?
Horrifying.
34.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, but those are those weird 70s like causes of death. You know what I mean? That heart attack could mean overdose. It could, you know what I mean? It could mean a variety of things.
Going over the side of the boat. Yeah, that's a R.I.P. Shelley Novak.
So just a little something about Shelley Novak there for you. Meredith Baxter engaged to a congressman. Again, this storyline I thought was just learning a nude photo she'd taken is coming out in a magazine. He wants to make sure he doesn't see it. I'll have more to say about that. That whole thing is just stupid. And a woman actress's name is Brenda Sykes.
I didn't know her from anything.
I looked. She was in episodes of this or that, but nothing really substantial. No offense, Brenda Sykes.
She was good. I thought she was really good.
She was good. She was good. Wants to get married, but her boyfriend, JJ Walker. JJ, don't say dynamite on another TV show. Walker.
In a very understated performance, I would say. Really
less is more. Less is more.
God.
Jesus. Who just wants things to stay as they are, follows her wherever the ship does.
Yeah, I want to get into that when we start talking about it, because I don't understand that plot line at all. So
I mapped it out. It doesn't make any sense too. like logistically, it doesn't. Anyway. So, and it's funny because we spoke a little about the Meredith Baxter storyline with the whole photo, and which at first she said it was a photo, but then everyone's looking at a centerfold. I'm like, Jesus, that's more than a photo.
Yeah, that was a shoot. Yeah,
that's a thing, man. Yeah. Anyway. So it's interesting because this episode or that storyline was a case of life imitating art. Because Suzanne Summers, what does it say here? Suzanne Summers, who had posed nude years before when she was young and desperate, and was now trying to hide it, like around a little after mid 70s. It later came out. Summers had posed for Playboy under the same circumstance back in 1970, after she became a household name from the success of Three's Company, 1976. Actually, no. She wasn't on Three's Company till January of 1977. So I wonder if 1976, was she just like a personality before that?
I mean, I feel like everybody was on like a million things back then. Like there were game shows, and maybe she was in a Quincy or something.
Who knows? But that led anyway. Playboy published the photos despite her attempts to prevent it. So obviously not the same thing, but
but I mean, that's weird that it's in the same episode that she's in.
Yeah, that's a little odd, right?
Like, I wonder if they were trying to get her and had to flip.
Maybe she worked with Meredith Baxter, coached her through it, told her what her motivation. I mean,
if they were on the same set, it sounds like they were two completely different units.
Well, what's weird though is this set. I'm glad you said sets. You have your standard opening with the staircase. You have your standard closing with the staircase, and then the Captain Steubing, you're needed in the bridge. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously these are there's not that many sets, really.
Well, I assume every room, like every cabin, was the same cabin.
Yeah, I would just financially, yeah. But
and then they had the dining
room.
Yeah. And then they had the
area,
which was weird.
With that overwalk thing.
Yeah. But it clearly, I guess maybe I always assumed that they would have shot it just like on an old ship, like the Mushaloo or something that had just been dry docked. But yeah, I guess they were just
DJ
a bunch of
in there on
thugs.
the weekends, by the way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. It's weird. It's weird. Um, and it's weird. It brought back this sense of nostalgia when they showed that canned shot of like the boat leaving port and the streamers and stuff, and I was just like, it got
Okay.
me.
No,
Yeah.
so now I will say this many times tonight. I've never been on a cruise. There are a lot of things that maybe are just obvious cruise things that I don't know. The closest I came when I lived in Florida and Tampa had a port, and so I would like go by, but like that looked like they were shipping off for D-Day. There were like 10 million people saying goodbye for that cruise, which from what I could tell had 40 people on it, like tops. Like there were a lot of people on that dock saying goodbye.
If every yeah, it's and it's the same shot every show,
Yeah,
which is amazing.
that's what I figured. So.
Anyway, so yeah, interesting. And it's funny when you talk about the ship. Well, we'll get to this in a second. We'll get to that. The thing that I took a note on was when Bonnie Franklin said to Gopher, "I'll see you in my room in an hour," and she said something to the effect of, "Leave that Shirley Temple act behind."
Yeah,
And
she wasn't talking to Gopher. I think she was talking to Julie.
Oh,
Because
okay,
Julie,
okay.
I don't know, Shirley Temple. Isn't Shirley Temple from like the 30s? Like that's a dated reference in 1977, and they made it twice.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Like there was I don't know. It's not like she was
was there
doing
something going on with Shirley Temple in 1977?
Apparently, she was a ship cruise director or something. So
Something.
yeah,
That's odd. That was odd. So we see the Bonnie Franklin comes in. Here comes JJ, right? Here comes JJ. And the thing that got me, so many things. Number one, his hired killer t-shirt was number one.
Well, he's an exterminator.
He's an exterminator.
Which they jammed in with exposition, by the way.
It was just
it was like unnecessary. So.
I didn't realize you could just pull right in front of a cruise ship.
Yeah, definitely
get out
definitely pre 9/11. This whole thing because Jenny,
mm-hmm.
who's Jimmy Walker's girlfriend, runs in, just asks, says the name, asks for the room number, runs to the room.
Yeah.
No key, no ID,
no bags,
nothing. She could have been anybody. And then she barges in, so there's no locks, I guess, on ship doors. And she's got a roommate that she doesn't know. Is that how it works on cruise? This sounds horrible.
It does sound pretty
horrible cruise. I have to be on a boat with a complete stranger in this tiny room.
I would love to know, like, how much was that ticket? You know what I mean? You don't bring bags. You just come right in.
Yeah.
You just hop in the room with God knows who.
I wonder if it's like when you do the Uber share, and it's
That's
like
exactly what it is.
It's like 4 people, but it's only you have to pay $2.
It's like a hostel. It's like a floating hostel.
And then the thing I don't get is he goes right in, and then Gopher sells her out for like the compliment.
Yeah, nothing. Because he's the captain.
Right. And then they're all like, "Oh, the ship's leaving. You have to go." But who's checking? There's no security.
I was just thinking that too. Like, who? Okay. Because the thing is, we never saw him leave the boat or like go in the direction to leave the boat.
Right.
So later on, I was even like, well, where's JJ?
Right.
Like, what happened? Is he still on the boat? Like, is he going to show up serving drinks? Like, I didn't know what they just.
You could 100% just hide. No, you wouldn't even have to hide.
You wouldn't have to hide.
There's no ID.
Just hang out at the pool. Exactly. Nobody would ever know.
Right. I'm sleeping. I'm asleep.
You could eat and drink for free in the 70s on cruise ships, basically. I mean, because it was just a free for all.
Yeah. But instead, he just starts driving. I guess he's driving alongside the Gulf and following this giant boat.
Well, yeah. And it's funny, too, because Suzanne Summers said to her, she said when she came in the room, again, and I put the note here, no luggage, no ID. And Suzanne Summers says, basically, take a walk if I have a guy in here.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, like
she's got an agenda.
like a
Suzanne Summers had a
firecracker.
plan and executed the plan
Yeah,
on
she's
the cruise.
firecracker.
She definitely had the best cruise
Oh God, she had the best cruise. And then you
by
see
far.
why. Well, you'll see, you know what I mean? You kind of get it a little more at the end, but
Yeah.
at this point, I see her and a little later too. I'm like, God, she's a loose cannon to say the least.
Yeah.
I something you said. So JJ's character did give Gopher that compliment about being the captain, and then Gopher's kind of standing there, and the captain comes up, and the captain says the phrase "keel haul." I'll have you keel hauled.
No idea.
So I said, I got to know what that is.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's
Oh no.
absolutely brutal. Keel hauling is a form of punishment and potential execution once meted out to sailors at sea. The sailor was tied to a line looped beneath the vessel, thrown overboard on one side of the ship, and dragged under the ship's bottom from one side of the ship to the other, or the length of the ship. But here's the thing, it's not just that. Like, so you might drown,
You
right?
probably drown. Oh, length of the ship, you definitely drown.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But the other thing, there's barnacles and stuff in the bottom of the ship. So your face is just getting just shredded. My point is that's a little overkill.
That's
Don't you think,
excessive.
Captain Stubing?
And really, that's like your first go-to. That's aggressive. This is why your wife left you.
That's I bet you Bonnie knows. Bonnie knows
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah, we don't bring that story up at dinner.
But that's I just thought that was a terrible. It was such a
I
throwaway
heard
line. And I'm like,
that.
wait.
I heard that, and I just assumed it was
I,
fun boat. Like I don't know. It's like they put you up in the poop deck or something.
I thought like maybe like that, like planking. You know what I mean? When you walk the plank, maybe. But this
Nope,
was wow.
way worse.
I'd rather let me walk the plank. Don't keel haul me. Like that's terrible.
Yeah, I literally would take any punishment over whatever that key hauling is. So
What is it? It said the common supposition is that keel hauling amounted to a sentence of either death by extreme torture or minimally a physical trauma likely to cause maim.
yeah, and this is because now listen, I think Gopher is a scumbag because he gave that girl's room up immediately. But you should not be murdered for it. There's probably a middle. There's probably a middle in there somewhere.
It's not the first time he gave out. You know what I mean? Like there's Gopher's a little.
But like, I had to double check. Like, did he slip him a 5 or something? Or is like
he just told him he just went captain and like
yeah,
and that was it. And he was like, oh, imagine what he would give you if you gave him money.
Right. And then when JJ shows up at the room, he is just, I mean, he is in his own show.
He comes launching in.
He is just, him and Bonnie Franklin left nothing on the table. They are just going for it.
They were looking for bigger and better projects. That's what they were doing. Like, I don't hold me to a sitcom. I can do so much more than that.
Oh, there's a scene in there at one point where I don't know, she mentions marriage or kids or something like that, and he does like the like this, like oh, it was great.
Where are we? All right, so we see that we're all broken up there. We went into keel hauling, which was important. 70 notes. All right. So let's talk about the JJ situation a little more here. So the drive from Los Angeles to Puerto Vallarta, if you had to guess, what do you think that would be?
I mean, that can't be a straight shot, right? Because it's international.
It's international.
I'm going to say, and those roads can't be good.
It is drivable, but
16 hours.
26-hour drive.
Oh,
it's a 26-hour drive. So I call shenanigans.
Yeah, you're not beating the boat.
And he's driving that cockroach thing. There's no way he's driving that.
Which didn't make it to the end of the episode. So.
And somehow you're getting past cartels. You're getting through Mexico hassle-free. So I was like, no.
Yeah.
No. This storyline, I don't know. It was weird because I felt like he wanted to say dynamite. I felt like he wanted to get his catchphrase.
There is a part, I think it's at the end when she decides that she doesn't want to get married.
Yes.
I made a note. And he said like Shazam and he said so many other catchphrases.
Shalamar. Yeah, everybody.
Like, but yeah, definitely they were like, you can be on, you can miss a week. We'll write around you, but you cannot
say dynamite.
Yeah.
He's like, what you talking about? Willis. He said all of everybody's. Yeah, it was.
But so the actual, the actual argument is she wants to get married.
Right.
He doesn't. They live
Right.
together. He wants the status quo. She clearly wants a ring. Fine. Understand.
Until, yeah.
So they had such an argument that, to your point, she runs, I guess, how long did it take you to book a cruise before the internet? Like, so did she
Apparently.
have this booked? Like, I assumed when he went running that they were both on the cruise.
She wasn't giving off the vibe. Like, she was giving off the vibe that I'm hiding.
She's
Like,
not
here's a
Jenny.
place to hide.
She's not Jenny O'Brien. I think that's the ultimate lesson.
Yeah,
That's not her real name. She was clearly just
No,
she
no.
knocked into somebody and
Just
grabbed their cruise ticket
identical
or something.
cousins or something. Yeah, something else happened. She
But so
found
that-
it on the ground. Something.
But so that's the conceit, is that
Mhm.
he doesn't want to get married. She does, blah, blah, blah. So she
Right.
runs. He follows her. But every time he follows her, he's trying to get her to come back. But she's going to come back.
Right. The cruise comes back to LA.
Right. This is
You
not a
could've just
one way.
stayed there.
She didn't sign up for a hitch
Right. It's like a
in the
boomerang.
Navy. Right.
Yeah.
All her stuff is clearly still at your house.
She didn't bring shit with her.
Right. So,
Right.
like, give her a week, let her blow off some steam. Maybe you go to the LA port and try and get her back. But after that,
Meet her on the way back.
exactly.
Okay. I
it's
know. What are
fine.
you going to do? Swim? You're going to jump off the boat?
Absence makes the heart grow
Come on.
fonder. You're fine. And he just kept chasing, but was definitely not ready to do the ring until she came back to LA. You could have saved all that time.
Yeah, but I just thought of a new wrinkle. Wouldn't you think the person who wanted to get married would be the one chasing the person who didn't want to get married? Does that really make sense? Why would someone who doesn't want to get married be chasing this girl?
It
'Cause-
does seem like it would be
You know what I
more
mean?
like they broke up, and this cruise was like going to a land, and she was going to start a new life in
Right.
where one of those stops or something like that. But yeah, there was the fact
Little
that I
flaw.
didn't even pick up on the fact that she didn't have bags. That is a big red flag that
She didn't
she
have
is.
anything.
Yeah, this was a spur of the moment cruise.
Yeah.
1977, which normally I would say seems impossible, but apparently you could just say
Piece
you're on
of
a
cake.
cruise. Yeah,
You can
no-
jump on a boat and 30 million people will wave goodbye to you, apparently.
So, lesson for Jenny O'Brien: I'm not marrying JJ Walker because he should have just hit on the boat. That was dumb, and I don't want you controlling my money if you're
No.
wasting all that gas money and you didn't work for a
Just doesn't make
week.
any sense. Yeah, when are you killing bugs, bro?
Not at all.
Well, the other thing too is I was thinking like, so JJ Walker, right? Obviously from Good Times. Look, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. And he's not a looker. You know what I mean? I'm saying he wasn't a heartthrob in the 70s, but it was
No.
just was odd to me that I felt like that girl was a little out of his league. I'm just gonna be honest.
Oh, I think that's fair, but
Like,
don't underestimate that Los Angeles exterminator money. It's a
Wow.
big town,
I mean, it is a big town. You make
and
a
he's
good
one of the
point.
best. He's got a bug on top of the van.
But I mean, even with like him being like, if she knew he was Jimmy Walker, I don't even think that would be enough. You know what I mean? Like that there was a disparity and it was just weird.
No, I think that's fair, but I think. Well, I shouldn't say that because the congressman was handsome. I was going to say most of
Oh
those
God.
70s,
Look at that
but
guy.
I know you were slamming on Bonnie Franklin earlier, but I feel like, that was
Well, she has a bowl cut. It's hard to say vavoom to a girl with a bowl cut, like it's just not a good look, like, oh, Dorothy Hamill. No, I get it.
I don't
get it.
think there's a ton of lookers on the boat in general, guy
Well, Julie
wise.
is Julie.
No,
not
guy
Julie.
wise, I'm saying.
Guy.
And
Well,
so I
who's
think
the-
it's slim pickings.
Who's the best looking crew member?
Gopher or Isaac. I mean, Doc's a creep.
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
even touched the surface on Doc yet. Yeah, it's not Doc. It's not Captain. Really, Gopher.
It's either Gopher or Isaac.
Well, maybe that's why the captain wanted to have him keel hauled. You know what I mean? He didn't want to deal with that
Yeah.
competition. He can take it from Isaac because he's a bartender. So we fast forward a bit, and it is a scene where the captain is talking to Doc in Doc's office. And Doc opens his desk and pulls out some pills, and he gives 2 of them for the captain, and he says to take him for his stress, and has him take one right there. Which it just was funny. It was just like okay.
Different time, man. Different time.
Well, but I bet like watching it in the 70s, you wouldn't even thought about it.
No.
Like it wouldn't even been a thing.
No,
But now you're like,
I assume there's a lot of stuff watching it in the 70s you wouldn't think of being a thing. And honestly, Doc's loose pill morals are the low end of that list.
He's the most popular guy on that ship, man. I'm telling you, and he also there was some misunderstanding as to what Captain Stubing was saying, and Doc said the phrase, "I like the big ones too,"
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
so. Right now, Doc, we know he's loose with the pills, and he likes a bigger partner. So
I thought that was interesting because they did a decent job for a 1970s TV show, which usually smashes you over the head with, the plot points. They held out for almost a third of the episode before they told you that she was his ex-wife. Now, I'm sure if you read the TV guide that week, you probably knew. But, they held on for a while, and then they do the big reveal with Doc. And yeah, Doc does his big bottom boat lady joke or whatever. But the most interesting thing to me was when Stubing takes a beat and he does his monologue about the failed marriage and stuff like that. So the whole deal is that they were very happy for a while, but he wanted to be a commander.
Chose the sea.
He chose the sea over her. Do you know what that story is? The story of Captain Stubing and Stacy Stubing's divorce?
No.
It's Brandy. It's the song Brandy. The whole plot is that he chose the sea. That's the entire Looking Glass ripped off the Love Boat or vice versa. So
what year did that song come out?
I probably
hold
before.
on a second. Hold on.
But I'm telling you,
Brandy. Brandy.
Yeah, exactly. You're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be, but my love, my lady is the sea. It's the exact same thing. So if that predates it, there's a copyright issue with that song.
Brandy, 1972.
Oh, there you go. So somebody enjoyed that song, but it's literally the same thing. So that's what happened to the Stubings. So sad, really. And I hope that wasn't, that's like their divorce song.
Well, she even said in the end, like, I chose the ship. You know what I mean? And she kind of, you know what? I'll get to it because there's a whole last name issue I'd like to address.
They also didn't do a great job of explaining, like, when they got married, was he just doing local ferries? Like,
right? Was he a lieutenant?
Right.
Like, how does it work?
Like, it doesn't seem like a job that you just surprise after you get married. I'm going to go be a love boat captain.
And then looking at the episode, I don't know what he does.
No.
The dude, all he does is walk around and get dressed up in a shorter jacket and goes to dinner every night. It's the same. And it's Groundhog Day every day.
He scared those two passengers into the pool.
Right. I mean, he's not. He's just. He's
got an office. Like, why does the captain have a giant office? How much time are you spending in the office?
It's yeah. You never see him steering anything.
No, give me a big wheel shot at least once.
Something once. I don't even think that's a thing.
Most of my boat knowledge probably comes from Deadliest Catch, and they were always in the front of the boat with a wheel.
I love that show. Yeah, it was something. You'd think a set would be on the bridge, especially because at the end of every episode it is, Captain Stubing to the bridge. Well,
probably because the boat's like careening into a reef or something. So
that's funny. Yeah, it's just so different. All right, so we go back to Meredith Baxter now. So now we see her checking to see if anyone is looking at the magazine with her in it. And the thing I caught the second time around was the name of the magazine. I think it was like Kitten.
No, Kitten Magazine.
Well, why would they have that on a? Does that make any sense to you at all? I was like, why the hell would you have that on a cruise ship?
So we got to remember it's pre-internet. So if you're a creep and it is a love boat, maybe one copy, maybe two copies tops.
Right.
Julie, when she goes and gets the magazines, gets
she had a stack.
Six, I think they said, at least six. And they sold three.
Three more were missing.
So let's just assume we round it up. They buy 10 for the store. Okay, that's a lot. And the newsstand opens at 9:00 in the morning.
Somebody's rushing to that.
Mrs. P. Keaton sleeps through her alarm, wakes up at 10. Julie shows up with the magazines, which means let's give 10 minutes to walk back and forth. I don't know where the newsstand is. Maybe she didn't want to be rude. But anyway, 3 guys, including one of your employees, went to the newsstand between 9 a.m. and 9:45 and bought a porno magazine. and then had no compunction about
Just
reading it just anywhere.
any the guy when he opened, he had the centerfold open, laying with like shirt or
Yeah,
like next to the pool.
we're like
There's families.
right,
Like,
exactly.
what are you doing? You have a room. Like, go back to your room and watch that.
Like, put
He
it in
had the
another
whole.
magazine, dude. Like, like at
Oh my
least.
god! It was
And then
just so.
and so that guy ended up being worse, I think, the second time I watched it. But
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah. He was way worse.
the highlight guy is the guy on the bridge, out on the deck. He's got the whole
Oh yeah,
three
yeah, yeah.
threefold going, and then she, Mrs. P. Keaton, quick thinking,
She's
grabs
she's
the smoke because
crafty.
everybody had a cigarette in their bag, and she lights this magazine
She
on
lit it on
fire.
fire.
Now,
Yeah.
everything I've heard about 70s fashion is very flammable. This guy is he's a creep, but
Right,
as
right.
we've proven, apparently
You know,
there's
he's
like
slathered in oil too because he's out in
right.
the sun.
And like he has to throw this magazine into the ocean. Like that's crazy. That would have been an entirely different episode if that guy had gone up like a Roman
Well,
candle.
I think the question is, I wonder if the guy went back to the store the next day to see if there was another issue of that magazine.
I mean, you would assume, it probably happened too, because it's like when he got there at 9:01, there were 10.
right. It's no big deal. It's no
Now,
big deal.
right,
I can buy
exactly.
two just in case it
After I
happens again.
ruin this issue
Yeah,
of
I got
Kitten
4 days
magazine.
magazine that I'm clearly traveling solo. A solo traveler, first in line at the magazine stand to get the new Kitten magazine to work the
It's like
magazine for
the
4 days.
Moss Isley
Yeah, but why even go
cruise.
on a cruise to do that? Can't you just
But
stay in your creepy studio apartment? What do you need to go? What's
but
the
the whole plot line is
Mhm.
that she is worried about this congressman who
Ugh,
ostensibly lives in Washington, at least part of the time,
sure.
is going to see this magazine, and she's going to somehow keep him away from this forever, I guess. But like, if there's 10 issues of Kitten on a boat in the middle of nowhere,
Let's do the math.
I'm guessing that the Senate chambers
Oh,
has a
oh.
newsstand.
Yeah, because
So
they're always on the up and up there. They're not looking for that sort of well, but the thing was again, I believe she misrepresented herself too, because initially she said she took some pictures.
yeah,
Taking pictures again to me, and I know we said it before, is different than you're the centerfold. Like a centerfold in a magazine is a lot different than to me.
well,
Maybe
I
that's just splitting
I guess
hairs.
it could just be one like picture, and they really stretched it out like
It
an
could be.
atlas.
It could be. Just put it landscape or
The thing
whatever.
I didn't understand was when she oversleeps and Julie wakes her up,
Yeah.
she initially thinks it's the congressman. And then later, when the congressman is giving that speech in front of the mirror, she knocks on the door. So they're not staying in the same room, but they're engaged
Oh, you know what's going on. You know what's going on.
for
She's not.
appearance.
No, I bet you. I bet you that dude's. This is just me. Like she's under the impression that this congressman is married, right? In my mind, it's one of those things like, no, no, no. He's going to leave his wife. He's going to marry me. He's going to leave his wife. He's
Oh,
going to marry me. That
oh,
explains the different rooms and the possible scandal because of things. I don't want anything to ruin
that is
this.
a real scandal.
I mean, why
Oh,
else would they be in separate rooms?
that would be great if in later episode they did a callback and his wife shows up and they're like, there's like the extra, they forgot to clean out the drawer and the extra 6 Kitten magazines are there.
Well, here's the thing with that. You bring it up. I felt like that congressman had more than one issue of Kitten magazine. Like the way he looked at it, it looked like there was a few.
It definitely did. It also didn't phase him. Like,
No.
yeah, I get it. You've seen your girlfriend, your fiance naked, but not in a magazine. Like you would take a beat, right? Like he has
Yeah.
seen. So point is, he was in the store at 9 a.m. He didn't
Oh.
buy it because why buy the
Why-
cow when you can get
Right.
milk
Why?
for
What's the
free?
point? What's the point? I already have that.
But he definitely he was in the newsstand. So it's him, Doc, and the 2 pervs are all at the newsstand at 9:01.
That's
We
amazing.
solved that. But he got the floating vote.
Yeah. Well, but remember they left the boat together.
Yeah.
So now I'm a little confused too. So like all of a sudden, I don't know. I think she's just crazy. That's what I think. I think she's just out of her mind. "Oh, okay, I don't want to ruin this thing," and he's like, whatever, I don't care." Like, and she's like, "Oh, thank God, now we're gonna get married." We're like,
It was aggressive.
"Oh,
It was
okay."
aggressive. Like she grabbed Julie. Like they just got on the damn
Yeah,
boat, and
she's
she's asking
clearly
these
out of her
questions.
mind. Like, "Oh, it did the whole thing." She's crazy. That I think and it was my least favorite storyline.
I don't think they were really into it. I almost wonder now that you said the Suzanne Summers thing. I wonder if there was more and they had to kind of chop it up because it was awkward.
I don't know. Well, I don't think that why would you offer that role to Meredith Baxter? And this is pre-Bernie. You know what I mean? That's before she really blew up. Like,
Yeah,
she's not was she known as a looker? I mean, Family Ties, I didn't she,
she was probably a good-looking mom in the '80s.
to be like a centerfold in Playboy?
Well, it
Good
wasn't
looking?
Playboy; it was
Oh,
Kitten.
it's Kitten. What
We don't
I'm
know
sorry.
where
We
Kitten ranks on
we
on
don't
the magazines
can
of
you
the day.
imagine though? Imagine Kitten is just the filthiest thing in the world. Like,
Well,
it's hard. It's like German stuff. It's
Well,
just
here's the
awful.
thing. Is it better for your circulation or worse that there's 10 of them on a boat newsstand? I don't know if that means that you're incredibly popular or you're
Oh,
just dumping them off on
I think
anything.
that means that that magazine is beyond filthy. Because how many times you're like, "Oh, just give us 10 of those." They're gonna get a whole that is some nasty stuff that whatever
There,
Mac
that
Meredith
is
Baxter.
really going to mess up their stats for Q3 when they see that they sold out in a day.
It's yeah, it's gonna change the landscape of filthy
Oh, we
magazines.
we
And that
gotta
and
hit this boat.
when that congressman was like, all the men can see the woman," and I'm just he even the way he, like, accepted it was creepy. He was
He was
thoroughly
in it.
creeped me out.
Yeah, he's going for the perv vote.
Like, he just had that
That's why he got the floating boat. He's getting all the pervs on that boat.
oh, yeah, and practices speech. I'm just like, "You
It is
giving a
all it is
speech on
all
the
kind of
boat?"
connected. That does make sense.
It is weird. It is interesting. Alright, so we go forward here, blah, 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 blah. So that brings us to, um, Suzanne Summers and Brenda. Um, Summers says to Brenda, "Make sure if you get a wedding ring, you get or if you get a wedding ring, make sure you get one a few sizes
Yep.
too small."
That was like a
Um,
Lockhorns comic. There were like 3 or 4
it's
like,
weird.
"I want kids, take mine." It was just like a
Yeah,
lot
she
of
was just
that.
like, "Bracata, bracata." So I remember that it was like they were having drinks, talking about what they were gonna do, and right after this scene, Meredith Baxter, of course, is looking for the copy, another copy. We're a little out of order, but that's okay. We're looking for a copy of the magazine, and who has a copy? Doc has a copy. Of course, he has a copy, and his quote is, "I never forget a face." So the Dean Martin of doctors strikes again as being utterly creepy.
And there
I'm
was no indication, like, Julie didn't say Doc's got it in his waiting room. You would just think, "Oh, magazine." That's not weird that at the Ship Doctor, there would just be a porno just laying out between, like, the Better Homes and Gardens and,
sets the tone. Tell
Good
you what,
Housekeeping.
sets the tone. There's a round bed in there. The lights are low. Welcome to, you know what I mean? Welcome to,
But
yeah, it's odd.
Doc ends up being the moral compass here
Yeah, he is.
because he's like, "You can't lie to this person. You're getting
No,
engaged."
you get engaged.
And good for Doc. Now later, Doc points out, and this is the problem with the first episode. They were trying to hit you with a bunch of stuff that I guess maybe you would just know later.
Right.
Doc's been divorced 4 times.
4 times.
So I don't know that Doc's taking his own medicine. You know what I'm saying? Can't
No,
self-prescribe.
you can't. You can't self-prescribed. And based on what we know about Doc, Doc likes him large. You know what I mean?
Yes, that
So
is true. So he's probably not into Meredith Baxter Burney at
mm-mm.
all.
He's like, "Get out of here, smaller person that I'm not attracted to in any way, shape, or form, that I'm shocked." Why would he have that magazine then? Because clearly it's not kittens. It's you know what I mean?
Well, but we don't know. Like I
He just
said, we
needed
don't
something.
know if Kittens is like all shapes and
Well,
sizes.
maybe Meredith Baxter was like larger when she took the picture.
Well, then she shouldn't have been worried because she already said she had a wig.
Right. I had a
Well,
wig and I had a
this
wig
goes
and
back to your
a
point
hundred
that
and
she
seventy
might
five
be.
pound bodysuit. Yeah,
This might be back to your point that she's insane.
she is. She's completely insane. She's complete. It's not even her. That's the crazy. That's what it is. It's she's just off her rocker.
So,
Um,
the you said about them the drinking scene.
Yeah.
When Suzanne Summers convinces
2 straight double bourbons.
yeah, there and leave the bottle. And first of all, that was a really cool
Stop.
bottle. That was a really cool bottle of bourbon. It was like just a weird shape. Could have been anything.
Sure.
This Jenny O'Brien doesn't drink at all. Takes a double bourbon and just bangs it like immediately.
Turns slowly in
Doesn't
the
go
bar
like
stool.
this or anything. Just,
There's no way I could have drank what she drank. There's no way.
I had a bourbon last night. Definitely wasn't a double. Definitely wasn't a straight. I didn't shoot it.
Well, she's asking, "What's that?" Like she's completely like
childlike.
It's just funny because like she's just telling her like, "Look, get a little buzz,
Yeah.
loosen up, relax. You're on vacation."
Again, good
Suzanne
advice.
Summers
Suzanne Summers really was the
laying it
best.
down.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like the JJ and Jenny O'Brien storyline was kind of dumb, but I thought the Suzanne Summers Jenny O'Brien story was actually pretty good. It was
I thought it was good. It was like
very empowering. Couple of women just out. I would watch that show.
Get under my wing. You know what I mean? And they go on vacation every now and again. I thought it was good. He's helping.
And maybe they both learned something from each other.
That's true. That's true. That's all you can really ask for.
Like what not to drink.
What not to drink.
So was it weird at the end of that scene? They did the conga.
Dancing with the people.
They did the conga right outside. That was like my wedding. They just did the conga right out the door. But then at the end, they show Isaac, and he's just shot.
He's banged up and tired.
Man.
Well, see, but that's what led to the whole crew when they just had it with Mrs. Skogstad.
Yeah,
like he was bent out of shape from her, and they were all getting together. That's where they had that conversation. That's when you learn that Doc had been married 4 times.
Yep,
it was the captain's ex-wife, the crew, the whole thing. So that's when we're at your crescent of the story here with the Bonnie character, or Stacy Skogstad, not to be confused with Stacy Stubing.
I mean, I get that they're going for the S thing, but that's a rough name to have your cast say. You could have gotten there with an easier name to say.
They said it a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
They really did.
They were going hard for the joke, which
it's just too much. It was just too much. So now we've got the crew. The captain kind of gets a whiff of what's going on about how
after getting faced at the captain's dinner a second time.
Yeah. She made him look like a chump.
Now
that's his boat.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
I get boats are loud, but cruises aren't loud. It's not a speedboat, right? So
right, I would imagine it's pretty quiet.
What does everybody else at that table think is happening? You got this old guy at the top of the table smoking a pipe, not saying a word.
Not a word.
The captain comes and just is getting crushed by this woman who maybe is British, maybe isn't. Always has a fun hat.
Well, and he's at dinner for maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I've got to go. I've got important things to do. And like, what do you?
Like
you got to put your long coat back on. Oh,
she dunks on him about some Jubilee, like Cherry's Jubilee or something like that.
That's right.
Like that is come on, Bonnie. That's just we've all had bad breakups, but that's like that comes off bad. The whole table must have been so awkward.
And I got to think that her husband, Mr. Skogstad, must be just deaf or something, because that dude,
I think he's sick of it.
It's just over it.
Here's the thing. Bonnie might be a trophy wife at that point. She's much younger, I would assume.
I don't know. Trophy wife with a bowl cut is kind of hard pass. I just don't see, I don't know. I feel like you're
killing Bonnie Franklin here. I think I might disagree a little bit with that period Bonnie Franklin.
I'll say this. She had a hard bob for a while, okay? All I want to see is Bonnie Franklin with normal hair.
That's fair. And I don't think she ever has normal hair.
I don't think she ever does. No, not in that.
But, I mean, there's good genes in there because Valerie Bertinelli, her daughter, incredibly hot. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And married to a great musician, too. So.
Yep. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Much like Senator Congressman.
Very different paths. So the captain, he's had it. Okay, the captain's had it. He's gonna lay it down to Bonnie. Okay, he's
drags her out of the restaurant.
Drags her out on like a like a balcony walkway sort of thing overlooking the pool and says, "Shut up and go to your
Go to your
room."
room. But to be fair, classy and visual, the captain also invites the husband
Yeah.
to watch this verbal assault of his wife.
Watch me say these things to your wife. Hey,
And
but she had a
she's
little
like,
she was like,
oh,
"Mm."
she doesn't. She has no remorse. It's like
No,
she's like,
she didn't give a shit.
you're going down the chute for this one,
Yeah.
Meryl, and all that stuff. And then and then they waited and they waited and they waited and they finally let Mr. Skarsgård say his piece.
Skaztag.
I'm not gonna get it. I keep saying
Skaztag.
Skarsgård now.
Skarsgård. Yeah, he finally said it. I felt like it was Maggie when she said
100%.
Homer, and
I
I was
really
like,
thought he was gonna be
"Oh."
like, shut up.
I thought he was gonna start screaming racial things. You know what I mean? Just to really throw us a curveball,
But
you
no,
know?
not only does he tell her to go to the room, and she's but then you're a great captain,
Yeah,
which I
that was
felt
a
like was
weird.
code for I can't believe you were married to this chick for 17 years. Like one of those
How did you
unspoken winks.
like, I should have chose the C too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
can
seems
I
looking
get
pretty
a
appealing.
job? Can I
Yeah,
get a job on your boat?
please. Can I Gopher doesn't do anything. Can I just do what Gopher does? Because
Bonnie
the C's not
Franklin.
gonna ugh.
Bonnie Franklin is getting more men to join the Navy than Franklin Roosevelt.
Why the Navy? Because it doesn't nag. Unbelievable, Bonnie. Uh, so the ship arrives back in LA. Here's an interesting twist. So now JJ character, now he wants to marry Jenny, but now after Jenny's experienced this wild other two straight double bourbon life with Suzanne Summers,
Seriously.
well, maybe I don't want to get married to a natural born bug killing van driving thin man.
International traveler for no reason. And
So
I mean, she's right. Like the whole hoisted on his own petard, right? Like all the things that he brought up early, she experienced, and the freedom, as she said, the freedom to have some freedom. That was very deep.
it was, but but I think that's what changed the way that I saw the Suzanne Summers with the character she played. Because you notice after that happens, she's leaving,
Yeah.
but like her kids are coming up.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh man, she's just on a break. She's a mom. She maybe the way she was living or acting on that ship, right? Maybe that's not something Jenny should emulate per se. But for
Well, here's
Suzanne, it was like I have a whole nother life where I'm responsible, but I'm here. I'm gonna let my flag
yeah,
fly. I'm get
yeah.
it done.
She's a cruise chick.
She's a cruise chick.
Now, the first time I watched it and I saw those kids running by, I didn't see what I assume is the grandmother. And I thought
Oh
that she had
yeah,
just left the kids on the dock for a week.
the whole time,
So that made
the whole time.
that made a little more sense. Now, the
So
one thing I did think was funny was the two of them are walking out and they're like, "Oh, I guess this will be goodbye. Oh, never say goodbye, blah blah blah." They didn't think to like exchange numbers. Like I know you didn't have cell phones in the 70s, but you had phones,
address something. Can I drop
something.
you a
And they were
line
just like
sometime?
was Suzanne Summers like, you're kind of a dud.
Or it's one of those things where, like, Haley's Comet kind of thing. Things come into your life in a flash, teach you a
Yeah.
little lesson. Because, I'm sure they were thinking about it that deep when they
What if
were
she's not
writing it.
real? What if she's like a Jiminy Cricket character?
That's fucking awesome. That would be, I liked it. I liked the way that ended. I don't know
No, I
why. I
agree.
just thought that was
I
cool.
think that was the absolute best. It was well written, especially for the
Yeah,
time.
surprisingly.
It was very well done.
But it's so weird out of all the storylines that were going on at the same time. I wouldn't have thought in the beginning of the episode that at the end of the episode, I would say that the character development of the Suzanne Summers part was by far maybe the best part of the whole episode.
Yeah. Well,
I thought.
especially because I think it was like the least obvious thing, right? Like
Yeah.
there obviously wasn't going to be a love boat where the congressman like boots her into the river because
Uh,
the Playboy thing.
that's the
Or
realistic boat. Yeah. It's
I
just
mean,
not a fun boat.
I will say they really never had a great. They did it kind of at the end, but like the ex-wife storyline, that never got great. Like he gave her a
Mm-mm.
little speech at the end, but it wasn't like that. So they actually rode those out maybe even a little harder than I thought. But yeah, I didn't know what that was going to be. I was still confounded by people staying in the same room with a stranger. That just sounds awful to me.
Yeah,
But not if you're going to learn life lessons. Maybe not.
well, I mean, how else is an angel going to be put in your life to teach you a life lesson to
That's true.
realize that maybe you don't want to get married?
That is very true.
Oof, that's
That's
deep.
that's the takeaway here.
That's deep for 1977 for episode 1.
Right. And I will say this, because it is episode 1, and I don't know how many Love Boats I've seen, but I never thought that the captain was like a curmudgeon or something like that. But he came off very curmudgeonly
You
early.
did.
They clearly were using that whole the crew. He's got the crew's back. Like that was. I'm sure if he's nicer in future episodes, it's because of that. So that
I
was a
think so.
very first episode kind of 20 minutes.
Well, they came on strong about how much the crew, you know what I mean, supported Captain Steubing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I thought that was interesting too, like because he's so, they got to play that whole like, I'm salty,
Well, because they didn't do that many first episode things. Like you ever watch pilot episodes sometimes, and
yeah.
they're like, "Oh, that's Julie. Julie, she runs this." Like I still
Remember
don't know
her
what
from
right. I still don't know what Gopher does.
I assume it's like a concierge, and I want to look that up, but I want to spend like meet your gopher at
Yeah,
some point to take
you'll
a
have
deep
time.
dive.
You'll have time to get.
Yeah, there's a little bit of time for that,
There's a few
but it is
episodes.
interesting. Is that a thing? Is a purser a thing? I wonder. I mean, I would assume it's like a hotel. It's a resort in the water. A concierge makes sense, but is that
So
what
is
quarter is?
Julie
I don't
like
know.
the hotel manager in that scenario, and then Gopher's the
Or
concierge?
is she the events coordinator?
But what
Like
did
I
she do? Because
feel.
she really seemed to be. Now she did set up the captain's dinner,
Mm-hmm.
but then she's also buying, you know, kitten magazines.
Well, obviously she has time on her hands, so she can't be doing anything that's, super labor intensive.
Feels like a
I
very
mean,
short-staffed boat.
it is kind of funny. There's no chef. They never talk about the chef.
No
You know what I
chef.
mean? Who's making all that food?
There's got to be like when they said that Mrs. Skarsgård was in the engine room. Like who's in the engine room?
Scotty. There's no very limited. Yeah, I wonder why they didn't expand that a little more. Like just well, I guess that's the
When
whole thing with this
when
show.
they
It's all
go
about the guest
running
stars,
when they go running into the boat
hmm
originally, there's a couple other guys in boat whites
That's
standing
right.
outside. So
I
I guess
noticed
that's
that.
now my guess is those are also people that showed up in other scenes. You know, there's
Had to
there's
be.
there's 20 people tops on this shoot.
Well, now I gotta wonder, like, what's the staff size on a cruise? I mean,
You know who you need to have on one of these episodes
hmm,
is a cruise person.
I should have a cruise person.
Even if it's just somebody that's been on a cruise, because I feel like we're missing fundamental information. But my biggest question is the door locking.
Yeah, that
I
was and
I
the checking in
yeah,
and the parking.
no, no, thank you. I don't. And the stranger rooms. Like
Yeah, I don't want to.
anybody who has gone on a cruise and tells you that you go on a cruise, they always say, "Oh, it's great," but you end up meeting a lot of people, and I'm like, I don't want to meet.
Not like
I don't want
that.
to meet any people, and I'm trapped. We've been trapped on boats where we didn't want to meet a lot of people. That
Yeah,
sounds like a terrible. That sounds like a terrible plan.
I'm
So
fresh water. I never
yeah.
want to do it again.
So
No, I
love
agree.
schmove when it comes to that.
Love schmuff. Well, wonderful. Well, that is episode 1 of the Love Boat Project. I want to thank my friend Mike Robertson again for being on for the maiden voyage.
Maiden voyage.
And more to follow. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time, Mike. And we'll see you next time.